Start our second day of this very, very nice, I have to say, conference. So thank you very much to all the PhD students that organize it. So Andrea and all the other guys, Maria Francesca, Rita, Matteo, Enrica, and I miss maybe someone else. But okay, thank you very much for all you have done in order to make it possible, because the first day was very, very interesting and stimulating for all of us. So it's a pleasure for me today to restart the conference activities with the keynote by Marieke van Erp. She is, I can say, my correspondent. She's the leader of the Digital Humanities Lab in Amsterdam at the KNAW Humanities Cluster. And she has been working for a long period in computational linguistics and now in general on digital humanities, and especially on system related to semantic web technologies and system for knowledge extraction. In fact, from 2023, she is also won a ERC consolidator, which is called Trifecta. I don't know if she will tell us something today about it now.
Another Trifecta team member.
Okay. We will have the possibility to speak about it tomorrow, maybe in detail. And she has a very, very long career related to activities mixing humanities and computer science. So it will be very interesting to understand how the Research Center imaging works, and to start dealing with possible correlation between the two research center. And so thank you very much, Marieke, for being here. And I leave you the stage. Thank you.
So thank you so much for having me, for having us, and putting together this amazing event. We're really happy to be here. And I thought, inspired by your presentation yesterday, I tell you a little bit about the Dutch digital humanities landscape. Can everyone hear me also online?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Let me just grab my water just in case. All right, so who are we? A bunch of us are here, but there's more people back in Amsterdam. So this is the current team, and we also have some visiting researchers at the moment. And that's something we really like to do. So also we've had several guests from Bologna already. If other people want to do their international stay, get in touch with us. And yeah, we all have slightly different perspectives and also backgrounds. So it really is a group where people have computer science backgrounds or humanities backgrounds, but we really find each other in trying to solve these things computationally and trying to see where these fields come together. What is the KNAW Humanities Cluster? So it is a research institute, and as such, it's part of the Royal Netherlands Academy of Arts and Sciences. And just to complicate things, it's actually 3 research institutes working together. And the Digital Humanities Lab, we started in 2017 with the idea of making connections across these 3 research institutes in terms of digital methods. So yeah, you don't have to worry about it a little bit, but just to know that, you know, universities sometimes have cross-faculty collaborations. This is kind of the same thing, but then across international, 3 national institutes. And our building is nice. It's not as nice as the buildings, some of the buildings here that you have, but this is our main building. Actually, those 2 together. The tall one is an old police station, and the smaller one is an old place where they would put fallen women to work, so to rehabilitate them. And that's where we work now. I'll leave it up to you to figure out what that means. And then also very interesting, this is the Oost-India House. of Oost-Indisch Huis. It's where the Dutch East India Company, very important, I'll say a little bit about it, used to have their offices, and that's where we park our bikes. But it's kind of interesting because we're actually working in the place where some of the history that we are researching happened. So I think that's really nice, and it really brings you close to what you're actually researching. So we are based in Amsterdam, but we are quite international. So we have worked with colleagues here in Bologna, but also elsewhere. So this is basically the co-authors, where our co-authors come from the past 5 years. What's also good to know is that we publish in loads and loads of different places. So I believe that here in Italy, you are kind of strict in, if you're a humanities researcher, you need to publish in these. If you're a computer science researcher, you need to publish in these. We don't have that, which is nice and sometimes also annoying, because then it's sort of harder to value sometimes what someone has done. But we think that, because we do such interdisciplinary things, sometimes new things, sometimes, we work with different domains, then it makes sense to have that conversation, like what is the best place to publish? And then, of course, but we need to make sure that our junior researchers, when they go out onto the next jobs, that they have the right publication list for wherever they want to go. So that's always a big conversation. One interesting thing that if you didn't know already about it, although Jiaji mentioned it briefly, because what she presented yesterday will be presented at the Computational Humanities Research Conference. This is a conference that started a couple of years ago by some people in our institute, sort of as a response to the big Digital Humanities Conference, but then like really with full papers, a bit more technical in a sense. And they've also launched a journal, which is with Cambridge Journal. So I don't think it's indexed yet. So I don't know if it's acceptable to your lists, but it might be something to consider. The education in the Netherlands, let's say we're very jealous of you. So we have 14 universities. You also should know that from the northernmost part of the Netherlands, say from Groningen to Maastricht, it's about a 4-hour drive. So we're tiny, right? And there's actually 9 universities with humanities courses. So we also have a few technical universities that just don't have humanities faculties. So basically, these are the universities that have a humanities faculty. And since 2004, I believe, we follow the Anglo-Saxon bachelor-master structure. And basically, there's a few places that have a minor. So I know the Free University one minor best, so that's 30 ECTS during the bachelor's, where there's some digital humanities components. It's actually co-taught by computer science and humanities. We only have one master in digital humanities, and that's in Groningen. But there are more research groups in digital humanities, but that does also mean that we get our PhD students from different places, because there's not like really a track into a PhD program. Also PhDs in the Netherlands, they're not cohorts, but they start whenever the project that we have funding for starts, and then we do a hiring procedure. In here, it's a lot, you come from a very strong philological tradition. I would say that in the Netherlands, we have a very strong connection to cultural heritage and cultural heritage institutions. So we have been very lucky that a lot of our cultural heritage institutions have digitized loads and loads of sources, all kinds of sources. So there's the Dutch East India Company records that I've also worked on, and also Marijn. They are ship cargo logs, they're hiring records, they're annual reports. So basically we know of 800,000 people that were employed between 1699 and 1794, when they were hired, when they quit, how much they were paid, in what role they were hired, where they came from. And it's a bit messy, but it's amazing that's still there, right? And it's actually a CSV file now. So it's been scanned, transcribed, and you can just play with it. We have Dutch government records that Marijn is going to be talking about. We have newspapers and books. Jaji already mentioned it. Gauri is going to say some more about it today. We have letters, radio bulletins, and a lot of it is available for research. Not all of it. Sometimes there's copyright issues, especially for the newer stuff. But usually it's pretty easy to get access. So we realize we're very, very lucky. So some of these ship logs, they originally looked like this. I don't know if you can see it at the back, but very curly handwriting. And these are pretty clean. These are a lot less clean. But actually, people can be trained to transcribe these amazingly. But let's go back to a slightly cleaner one. Basically, this is what it looks like, and one of the resources that has been created about it. So we know the voyage details, and we also know, for example, that they had 365,000 pounds of coffee from Java. They had a different way of specifying monetary values. So they have guilders and farthings and pennies. The total value was 76,000 guilders, and the coffee was about half of that, 34,000. In today's money, that you should kind of do it times 10. So the total value was 760,000. Yeah, and then half of it was the coffee. So we have all that, and you could just mine that. But we need to deal with all sorts of old product names. So we use NLP, but we also, create semantic web resources. So this is another big project that is currently running at our institute called Globalize. They're digitizing and making available several resources about this. So they've created, for example, a thesaurus. Now, I did not know that there were different types of cloves, but they were actually at some point shipping good quality and lesser quality cloves, and they're split out in those records. So you sort of need to always add that sort of semantic layer, this interpretation. And we need the historians for that. So we actually have, a bunch of, actually the majority of the researchers in our institute are more traditional historians. They're really domain experts. So we work closely with them to create these kind of resources to interpret this. But this didn't just happen. So actually, a lot of these are really long-standing. Okay, this got double copied on the slide. I'll remove that at some point when I post it online again. Because I was trying to make it look nicer, and then I forgot to remove that. So what the Dutch Research Council did at one point was that they funded a whole host of interdisciplinary research projects between 2004 and 2018. So basically what they said to all researchers in the Netherlands, you can propose a research project with us, but it needs to have one postdoc, one PhD student, one developer, and it needs to have a museum partner, a cultural heritage partner. And later they also said you need to have a humanities partner as well. So, and the team needs to spend part of their time at the Cultural Heritage Institution. I tried to figure out how many projects were funded, but as these resources do, and it was mentioned yesterday as well, these websites, even from the Dutch Research Council, at some point information disappears because they don't archive it properly. But there were at least 12, 15 projects in this. And one of them was my PhD project. So I was a PhD student in one of these projects. It was called Mining Information Text from the Cultural Heritage, or MITCH was the acronym. They also really liked all the acronyms. So there was MITCH, Rich, Witchcraft, Scratch, all sorts of things. And I spent part of my time at the Natural History Museum, where they have all these records of basically all the animals they have in the collection. And these were, partly structured, partly text, kind of like the ship logs that I showed. And what we did was try to see if we could maybe find inconsistencies in there, so do some error correction. We also tried to induce a taxonomy from that automatically. Or indeed, if there was a longer piece of text, to segment that automatically so you create a database that you can then analyze. And what's really interesting as well is that, sure, it's about biodiversity, but it actually also gives you a peek into our colonial history, because very often people would go to the former colonies, or maybe, some of the older sources, they were still colonies. They would go there and just shoot a crocodile and bring it back. You can't do that anymore, by the way. So that was 2004 to 2018, and there was still some overlap with when another series of big research funding started in the National Roadmap for Large-Scale Research Infrastructures, called CLARIA. So it's a contraction of Clarin and Daria, so you might be familiar with those. So Clarin is the language resources, and Daria is loads of other humanities and collections. They also do more training than Clarin does, in a sense. So yeah, the idea was to put those together, and they had multiple multi-million projects where almost every university in the Netherlands was involved. It's always hard when projects are so big to really manage them. So not everything sticks, not everything works out. But two main things have been really, really good about this. So one is the media suite, and that is a way to browse the audiovisual archives. So that data is very often under copyright. But what they did is they also made sure if you have a university account in the Netherlands, you can log in, you have access, because we know that you are a trusted person. And then you can search through these videos and radio, usually metadata. They're experimenting with audiovisual stuff as well. Another one is a spin-off called Triply. If you've not heard of it, there's stuff happening here. Okay. So they have their own triple store and interface around that. And then there were 2 PhD students who worked on Claria, and then they actually now have a pretty successful company. So yeah, how many humanities spin-offs do you know? So we're very proud of that. And actually, we just put in a new proposal for a follow-up as well. Fingers crossed. Some other options. So the National Library has researcher in residence positions. So since 2014, they invite early career researchers, people at the end of their PhD, maybe early postdocs, to spend part of their time with the National Library and to engage with their collections. Giovanni Colavizza was one of them. Also, one of the current directors of the National Library was one of them. So you can really sort of make a career through these networks. So that's something that's very, very interesting in these things. And just your network is just so important, especially in a small country. And also Gauri can tell you more about internships at the National Library, but also in Belgium. So other places have that too. In November, there's the month of the digital heritage. Last year, we participated in the Hackalot and we won, which is amazing. We had a good Bologna and ex-Bologna representation. It's basically 24 hours of being locked up somewhere and building something. But we really tried to, to sort of foster these relationships. So what we did with 4 research institutions and 4 cultural heritage institutions, we created the Cultural AI Lab. And this was partly a political move. So in 2018, there was an evaluation of the Dutch research landscape. So committees went to all the universities and all the research institutes to say, you know, do we really need those research institutes? Could we maybe just, you know, do everything at the universities? Because they do research too, right? Well, thankfully, they said, you know, they do have slightly different ways of operating. The research institutions generally have a longer horizon than the universities. So in Dutch universities, most of the research is just on temporary projects. So we said, you know what, we're going to work together and really to sort of make AI deal with cultural data better. And we created a shared research agenda, several topics we want to work on. And then we just started writing project proposals like nobody's business. And thankfully, we got a bunch funded. So actually, I need to update some of these photos, but these are all the people working on it. So some of them are like, you know, the head of research services at the Rijksmuseum. And some of them are, you know, early career, well, PhD students. You recognize some of them. And we get together regularly to sort of share our ideas and share what we're working on. And it's really, you know, with the heritage institutions and with humanities researchers and AI researchers, because you really need those different viewpoints, different perspectives, and different knowledge. One of the things we're working on a lot is problematic language use. Jaji also talked about it a little bit. The Words Matter publication, which is just a very, very good starting point to look at it. So generally what happens in galleries and museums, if you put an exhibition up in the museum, you have a limited number of information placards that you need to update if there's any problematic language in there. However, with people or with these institutions putting all their collections online, you can't fix all that manually. So you need AI methods or other kinds of methods, but we think AI could be useful there if you do it responsibly, to make users aware of potentially problematic language use. What you need to take into account, and this is part of the Pressing Matter project, that there are multiple perspectives. So for every object, what is it? And what kind of meaning does it have or purpose for the different people who owned it at what point? Or maybe sometimes they don't own it, but it's part of their culture, it's part of their, or their family. So if it's a gift, maybe it came into the collection during colonial period. Was it given freely? Or also sometimes it doesn't come directly from the people who made it, but it made its way through several stations to finally end up in some museum collection. So to trace the provenance of an object, to maybe restitute it, to give it back. You know, there's so much data available about these, but you really need to like peel this apart very carefully. As we've already seen, the language changes over time, so we also need to look at spelling changes. We need to look at meaning changes. What is acceptable language in any context? So 200 years ago, certain terms were very acceptable that we don't use anymore. But also some of the terms, they get adopted by maybe some of the communities. And if they use it, it's fine. But if someone else uses it, it's not fine. And also, you know, maybe Mr. West and Jay-Z don't use this when they're visiting some fancy party, but in their own group, it is also okay. So it's really what context is it used. So this is some of the work that Ryan Brake did, who defended his PhD thesis just before summer. He's also detecting stereotypes in books. So for certain groups of people, they talk about it, and then certain adjectives are more often associated with those groups. So can you automatically detect that? Now, the question is, what do you do with it afterwards? So a whole bunch of books have like the title changed. For example, one of some of Agatha Christie's books. Some books are now also getting kind of rewritten. It's a bit of a slippery slope of what you want to do with it. I think personally, and some other researchers as well, think maybe you should not erase it, but you should educate people and contextualize it. But that might be hard if it's a children's book, right? Are you going to explain to a 5-year-old some of these very sensitive and complex matters? So that is a continuous conversation with the source providers and the communities, the target audiences. So this is some work that, for example, Andrei Nestorov, one of our other PhD candidates, is working on. So he's now finalizing this user study on how to present alternative terms when you have a potentially problematic term in a museum record. So he's involving different user groups on this. And then the next step is how to integrate it with museum systems. This is really a long-term process, but this is where we want to go. Then also, what we try to do is share research results with people that are not researchers. So this is also the Pressing Matter project. They already, and if you want to do this kind of thing, you really need to plan ahead, because museums generally plan their exhibitions years and years ahead. But they now have this unfinished past return keep or ? Exhibition running at the Tropenmuseum Museum in Amsterdam. So that's really also how to communicate your research results. Now, if you think this is kind of cool, I would like to know more. We also have a reading club. So this is currently run by Jaji, but every couple of years, a new PhD student runs it. So we discuss a paper, it's over Zoom, and usually then someone prepares the paper and leads the discussion, and other people read it also beforehand, and we have that conversation. That could be maybe one way we can collaborate between our institutions. So just to finish up, we have several options for DH careers. If you want an academic career in the Netherlands, regardless of the topic, basically every job ad is published to academic transfer. So if you put a alert on that website for the topics you're interested in, from PhD candidate to director of institution, it will appear there. A bunch of our cultural heritage institutions, especially the bigger ones, they have like research units, and some of them, they really are like digital humanities focused, or have a part that is digital humanities focused. So the National Library Lab, Rijksmuseum also, the Netherlands Institute for Sound and Vision, and they also participate in all sorts of Dutch and EU projects. And then also something, an interesting connection is the Dutch Digital Heritage Network. So they, for example, organized the Month of Digital Heritage and the Hackalot. A lot of it is in Dutch, but they also are quite open to collaborations and those things. Yeah, and I thought this is one of my favorite quotes. I actually have it pasted on my office door by this computer scientist and Silicon Valley entrepreneur. I'll just let you read it. So that was very, very briefly kind of what we're doing, what our colleagues in the Netherlands are doing. So I'm here for questions. We're here for questions or suggestions, and look forward to hearing your thoughts.
Thank you very much. Very, very, very interesting. And yes, you are doing a lot of
We are
very different. You are doing a lot of very, very different and interesting stuff. I would like to start with a question, if you have a few minutes to discuss it about it, because it's a point on which I think a lot, and you have said something, and I would like to listen your thought about it. You mentioned that within the group of people working in the different projects involving cultural heritage institution and people from humanities, you said the group is humanities people, computer science people, institution, and stuff like this. So do you really think that the connection of just these kind of people is sufficient to work within a project, or do you think that people coming from humanities need to know a little bit of computer science and vice versa? People coming from computer science need to be aware about issues related to humanities research, because this is a point on which we have spoken a lot starting from the master degree, and then we deal a lot of time about this special profile, because yes, also in Italy, you need to be or humans or computer scientist because of your career. And so you need to focus on that. But yes, I would like to know your point of view on this.
I mean, I think the most important thing is that you are willing to communicate and also willing to learn about the other domain. And some people come at it like a little bit later. So we have this amazing postdoc colleague in our team, Veruska Zambolini. So her PhD was actually in biomedical domain, computer science, but biomedical. And then her first postdoc was also in a humanities project, and now she's also working with us. So, but she has shown that, she can, translate the computer science methods to the domain and really, interface with the domain experts. Now, of course, it helps if you spend a longer period of time in a domain, but if you only discover this a little bit later, then, and you have that open mind and you put in the work, because also you need to work at it, then I think it's entirely possible. But I think the most important thing is to have that mindset, and to have also the sort of the conditions, the situation you're in. So we're very lucky that we have this team with multiple people. Some of us have been doing this for a slightly longer time. We have people like Andrea, who's coming from here, where you have this, you've been in this environment, this interdisciplinary environment. And we also have then the support, for example, through these types of funding that allow us to do these things. So the Catch, or the Catch project, so was funded by both the social sciences and the exact sciences domains from the Research Council. They also said, we think this is important. We're going to both put money in. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, sure. I ask if there are point of discussion, question, or 1, 2, 3. First one.
I have a question. Part of my presentation there, but I was kind of curious how.
I'm not sure that people from home.
Well, but we can repeat it when.
Okay. Yeah.
Curious about how, in the Dutch context, you organize products, the research and the products research. So I had a look on the website quickly, both the DHLab and the AI Cultural Lab. Is there an existing system, a taxonomy or classification for like what the project produces and like what the activities are? I'm just kind of curious about that. And again, it's that this language is kind of related to what I'm going to talk about.
Yeah, so for the people online, the question is, how do we organize our project deliverables and publications? Yeah. So do we have a taxonomy or something like that? Not really. So, and this is always an ongoing conversation. For example, in the yearly reporting of the Institute, in the beginning, because they were not really aware of this, that there are different publication cultures, right? So we publish a bit more as computer scientists. So in the Institute reporting, they would only count journal papers, journal articles. And we were like, yeah, but we did all these really amazing conference publications. You need to also put those somewhere and say, look, people did, because some of the conferences are harder to get into than some of the journals. So yeah, we don't have that strict structure, which is both the bug and a feature. And then, yeah, so now a lot of the institutes also use Pure. So it's the Elsevier system that you have to record your things, which has some sort of structure, but it's very generic.
It could be nice for digital projects. Maybe later Lorena will speak about it. Okay. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for your presentation. I have a specific question about transcribing manuscripts. What is your procedure? Do you use like Transcribus, eScriptarium, and what do you think is the best for this type of documents?
So for the people online, what is our transcription procedure? So what do we use? We use a variety of things. So actually, most of it is probably not done in our team. So Our work generally starts when it's machine readable, but I know some of the people in our institute do, and you know, we do work on correcting some of the transcriptions. So we have used Transcribus in the past. Also at the institute, what they call the Transcribus killer, but I invite everyone to test it, has been developed, called Logi. Loghi. But we can also send it to you. Then also we have used crowdsourcing to either transcribe or to correct transcriptions. So working with volunteers, and then so yeah, it's a variety of things, and it really depends on the use case, the resources available for this, and how long ago we did it, because some of our stuff is legacy. We did that 20 years ago. So a little bit of everything, and we keep evaluating that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just pleased to be on question actually. When you were talking about how we work cross domain, I think you forgot to mention in we're all hybrids. So we are really people that do know.
Yes.
So it is, I completely agree, it's all about communication, but people do need actually just sort of, to mind, to online.
Yeah, so this is a comment from a colleague that for the people online, that in DHLab we're basically all hybrids, but some of us come from originally from computer science, and some come originally from humanities, and then we also help each other develop that knowledge. So Teresa is, for example, running another book club. This is an in-person book club where we are currently reading Speech and Language Processing by Jurafsky and Martin, like the NLP book. And just every couple of weeks, we go through one of the chapters together and like see if there's, some people, know it a little bit better and others have more questions, and try to adapt that to our use cases. So that's also how we sort of help each other learn, get that technical knowledge up.
Okay. Other comment?
That's not that you can make. So I probably be I'm an actual computer scientist being quoted here. Okay, I know. So now when I go with my colleague, hardcore computer scientist for real, I'm also always like the weird one, the strange one. I'm wondering when you talk to computer scientists, real computer scientists, or real humanists, whether you are the heroes or the weird ones, or the traitors, or the...
Yeah. Yes, that's the short answer. But I don't mind. The one thing we do mind is that then people, this is the previous university I worked at, and it would be like, oh, I have a problem with my computer. Can you come? It's like, no. So, yeah, but I think, isn't everyone in research at least a little bit weird? I think you said that yesterday, that we're all a bit weird. Everyone in academia has its own kind of weirdness. And it's so broad. But yeah, we're our own little corner in all that. Do you mind?
At all, I'm proud of it.
Okay, good. As should we all.
Yes, I spent here 25 years, more or less. I'm here, yeah, since it was 2000, yeah, more or less. And now maybe the